The body was real, the death was not. When authorities confirmed the body was authentic, the investigation should have ended. The remains were human. The injuries were fatal. The death certificate was issued without hesitation. On paper, the case was closed in less than 48 hours. But paper does not always tell the truth, and this one would soon unravel. The victim had been found inside a burned-out vehicle on a rural road, the kind rarely traveled and easily forgotten. The fire had destroyed most evidence, yet investigators recovered enough to identify the body through dental records and a partial fingerprint. The name matched a man reported missing 2 weeks earlier. Everything aligned until it didn't. Family members accepted the death with confusion rather than grief. They described the body as similar, but not exact. The posture was wrong. The height felt off. Even the shoes were unfamiliar. Still, grief pressures people to accept answers, not challenge them. The burial proceeded quickly, almost too quickly. The first real crack appeared when a financial institution flagged unusual activity. 3 days after the man was officially declared dead, a dormant account tied to his name showed movement. The transaction was small, almost invisible, but it shouldn't have existed at all. The dead do not spend money. Police dismissed it as fraud until a second transaction appeared, this time from a city hundreds of miles away. Surveillance footage captured a man wearing a hat, his face partially obscured, his build, his walk. Even the way he favored one leg matched the victim perfectly. Forensics reopened the case. New DNA tests were run using preserved samples. The results were disturbing. The body was real, but the genetic profile was incomplete, fragmented in ways fire damage could not explain. It suggested deliberate alteration either before death or after. Investigators began to question the impossible. Had someone used another body to fake a death? Or had the man himself arranged to disappear, leaving behind a physical substitute? The problem was motive. There was no criminal record, no debts, no enemies. He was ordinary, and that made the deception even more unsettling. As weeks passed, witnesses from nearby towns reported seeing the man alive. A cashier remembered his voice. A motel clerk recalled checking him in under a different name. Each sighting was dismissed individually, but together they formed a pattern too consistent to ignore. Then came the final blow. A fingerprint lifted from a coffee cup at one sighting location matched the victim exactly. Not similar, not close, identical. The death certificate was quietly officially, the case returned to open. Unofficially, no one knew what they were chasing anymore. The body in the vehicle was never identified. No missing person matched it. No records claimed it. It existed without a name, without a history, without a reason to be there at all. The man once believed dead was never found. No arrest was made. No explanation offered, because in this case, the body was real, but the death was not. After the case was reopened, investigators faced a problem they had never trained for. Every rule they relied on: identity through remains, confirmation through records, closure through burial had failed. The system was designed to move forward once a body was found. This case demanded that it move backward, questioning every assumption it had already stamped as truth. The burned vehicle was re-examined, piece by piece, beneath layers of ash and twisted metal. Technicians discovered something overlooked the first time. The vent plate had been deliberately removed. This was not an accident or heat damage. It was an intentional act, suggesting planning long before the fire ever started. Someone had wanted the scene to exist, but not to be traced. Medical experts revisited the injuries and reached a quiet consensus. The body had already been dead when the fire began. Whoever the person was, they had been placed into the vehicle afterward, reduced to a tool rather than a victim. That realization changed everything. Attention returned to the man believed dead but repeatedly seen alive. His past was scrutinized with new intensity. Childhood records showed gaps. Employment history contained unexplained relocations. Even his birth certificate had been reissued decades later, replacing an original that no longer existed. His life, it seemed, had always contained quiet disappearances. Investigators began to wonder if the man had ever truly been who he claimed to be. Perhaps the death was not an escape but a continuation, another layer in a long chain of identity shedding, each body serving as proof of an ending that never actually occurred. One officer posed a question no one wanted to answer. If this body was meant to close a life, How many others had been used the same way? How many deaths had been accepted simply because a body existed, even when the truth stood elsewhere? The file was eventually locked under restricted access. Not because it was solved, but because it was dangerous. Dangerous to trust. Dangerous to reopen. Dangerous to admit that certainty could be manufactured. So was I. The burned vehicle was crushed. The remains were cremated. Evidence vanished into procedure, but the man once declared dead was never erased. Somewhere, under another name, he continued moving forward, carrying a life that officially no longer belonged to him. The body was real. The fire was real. The paperwork was real. Only the death was a lie.